Hello everyone. In response to my recent post on LinkedIn, I received a query from someone transitioning from quality assurance to information security compliance, basically from QMS to ISMS. He need to understand the practical steps to achieve ISO 27001 certification. They have received this as one of the contractual requirement from their major customer, and now this task has been assigned to someone who is not from the security background but from the quality background, and now he wants to understand the complete process about how to achieve the compliance and certification to the ISO 27001 certification. So to answer this, I will take that approach of how I deliver the ISMS projects when I help my customers to implement the ISO 27001. This is how we proceed with those projects. So we first understand the scope and the requirement, and that generally happens during the kind of onboarding phase itself. So we have to understand what the customer requirements are, whether it's a regulatory requirement for them, whether it's a contractual requirement for them, or whether it is a business requirement. So very first thing you need to understand is like from where the requirements for this certification is coming, and as in this case it is about a contract, and it's a requirement imposed by one of the major customers. So this is a contractual requirement for you. Then when we have the requirement, a contract requirement, then we have to decide on the scope, basically whether you want to include only that service delivery that very project you want to include for certification, or you want to include the larger organization into the certification. So this choice is absolutely to the organization, whether they want to set the practice uniformly across the enterprise, across a particular business unit, across a particular location, or they want to be very specific to because it's a requirement from a customer, they want to be specific to implement the ISMS only for that specific customer engagement. Fine, this will be your choice. Then coming to, if it is whatever the scope you decide, fine, we need to understand first where we are today. Fine, means we need to refer to the standard and do one round of assessment to identify where do we stand today, so that we can identify the gaps. Fine. And once we identify the gaps, we will know how much amount of work is needed, which teams are to be engaged. Fine. For example, if you have HR practices are all kind of very matured and they have all the requirements are being fulfilled. Fine. So probably you will not probably have any action item for them. Fine. So but if they are not let's say doing the induction program, or they're not including the information security awareness as an induction program, in that case you will have to engage with them as well. So depending upon your gaps, you will identify which teams need to be involved. Fine. And my second step generally I do is, and I generally combine this with the gap assessment as well, when I go to the organizations, I walk through their processes. While identifying the gaps, I also identify what their risks are. Fine. So instead of doing this twice, means this is assessment. Fine. You need to go and check how the business is being carried out. Instead of doing it two times, fine, better you just go in one round and do it more comprehensively, so you are able to identify the gaps as well as the risk. Once you have the risk assessment in place or risk register in place, right, you will know what controls you need to implement and to what extent you need to implement them. Based on your risk identification, risk assessment, you can develop your policies, your procedures, right, so that you can set a practice to follow in the organization. Right. And once you have the policies and procedures, you need to take the approvals from the relevant stakeholders and then roll out in the organization. So once you roll out those new policies and processes in the organization, then you need to help people understand it, means impart some kind of training for the new processes, what you are expecting out of it. Every department will have their own way to implement or to follow the process. Fine. So that might not be aligned with the requirements of the standard. So but if the standard says something to be done in a specific way, then that's a in knowledge you have to impart to that specific team member so that they can follow the process. So after you define the policy and the processes, talk to the teams, like conduct the sessions, awareness sessions and workshops to make them aware of the new requirements and what are the changes you expect from them. Then only you can expect them to implement them, and you will have your controls being implemented as you are trying to implement the 27 compliance. So once that exercise is done and people now know what is to be done, and you are able to impart that knowledge to the people so that they can follow the new process, fine, and you implement those controls, fine. So you will basically kind of support them during this exercise. You will support them, fine, in probably conducting multiple rounds of reviews. They may face some challenges, there may be some conflicts, fine, and that you have to resolve with them. And once everything is done, one round of we can say implementation has been done, then the step I recommend next is identify the data points, how you can measure the effectiveness of the processes what you have rolled out, right? It may be existing process which aligns with the ISMS automatic pre-existingly, or it may be a new process, right? So identify the data points that is readily available so that you can measure the performance of your ISMS. So means define the KPIs, right? After you define the KPIs, conduct one round of measurement as well. When you may have your measurements for each KPI, you may have a different cycle of measurement. Some of the KPIs you might monitor monthly, some of them you might measure quarterly, half yearly, and annually. But I will recommend, like basically starting, fine, measure one round for all KPIs. So again, depending upon what the nature of KPI is and if we have the data available or not, and then go for the you will get the entire picture of whether you are able to achieve your objectives or not. And then for going for certification, you have to conduct one round of internal audit, and after the internal audit is completed, and you need to present those findings and the requirements what the standard says, and you have to have the management review meeting, fine, which should include the outcome of this KPI measurement and also the outcome of the internal audit, fine, and take the management go ahead that we are ready for certification, we want to go for certification. Then engage a certification body. When you engage a certification body, you will have to follow the process of your procurement. They may ask for 3 quotations and whatever your process is, fine, your selection criteria and all that is very subjective to the organizations. So engage the certification bodies, and once the certification body is engaged, they will ask you for specifically whether the mandatory requirement like policy is being communicated or not, fine, policy is being approved or not, one round of internal audit is conducted or not, one round of management review has been done or not, fine. So they ask for these specific questions to ensure that you have the one cycle of ISMS running in the organization so that they can plan for the on-site visit. So that is called as a stage 1 audit basically. So in the certification audit, there is a stage 1 audit and stage 2 audit. In the stage 1 audit, it's a review of your readiness, and so that they can plan for the on-site audit, which is stage 2 audit. And stage 2 audit is a real audit where they will go in detail about how you have defined the processes and how you have implemented the processes, how effectively your processes and the controls are being working, fine. And based on that, they will recommend you for the certification, and you will get certified. I mean, you may have maybe minor NCs and that you may need to address, but at the end you will get a certification. So the entire process starts, I repeat, the entire process starts with identifying the requirements so that you can define the scope. Then after you define the scope, do one round of assessment. In that assessment, you can identify gaps as well as risk. Once the risks are identified, you know which controls are to be implemented, because controls are required in the standard itself. You pick and choose the controls from the standard, and now you know which controls to be implemented. Write the policy and processes for those controls, then distribute them, get it approved, distribute them across the enterprise and to the relevant stakeholders, train them, help them understand it and implement it. Once it is implemented, conduct one round of performance evaluation by measuring the KPIs, and then one round of internal audit, then one round of management review meeting is required. Then you are ready for going for the certification process. And when you go for certification process, you have certification process divided in stage 1 and stage 2. In stage 1 it is more of a readiness check. In stage 2 it is a real audit which will be conducted on site mostly. When after COVID there are certain relaxations being given and certain agencies are still following that remote audit, but mostly certification audits at the stage 2 are conducted at the site itself. So they will come, they will do the audit, and they will certify you. This is the entire process. If you need any more support, please again reach out to me, and if you have any specific question out of this process, then please reach out to me. I will answer it. I hope this was meaningful. This was useful. Thank you so much.